Hello, welcome back. This is Donna Lovett, and we are on session 4 of the Destiny Discover course. I'm really looking forward to sharing this topic today. The whole notion of creating or discovering a family destiny, a family legacy is fairly new. There years ago, when people first began talking about purpose and destiny, this was not a topic that was included in it, at least not 10 years ago. But you do hear more and more people now talking about the importance of understanding your family legacy. So I think I'm a pioneer in that regard. But anyway, why don't we begin by sharing my screen with you. Here we go. I don't know why I keep taking my glasses off and on. Okay. So what we're going to do today is to review what we covered last week. And there really wasn't much of a homework assignment last week, but I'm going to share with you something that I hope that you may have done on your own. We're definitely going to spend the majority of our time talking about family destiny, and there is going to be a homework assignment today. So last week, what we did was we focused on the importance of hearing the voice of God, and shared with you several Bible scriptures relating to that. I also introduced to you Christian meditation, and we had a meditation cycle with music in the background, and I really am looking forward to seeing your comments. If you have not made a comment yet below, please do that. So that's what we covered last week. A topic that is very close to me. That is definitely how I began to develop this personal, conversational kind of relationship with God. And prayer is just so different than what I thought it was growing up. So I hope you enjoyed it too. But today we're going to talk about how to understand or understanding your family legacy. This topic again is usually surprising to people when they talk about purpose and destiny, because often we just focus on ourselves. I never thought for years, and a lot of people never thought that there could be a legacy, a destiny for a whole family. And I'm going to show you why I believe that. I completely believe that it is God's intent to bless families, not individual. The Bible, when I read it, it's a book of family. Jewish nation was a family. So he wants to bless families. He wants to create a godly inheritance that will continue from generation to generation. You know, I heard someone say that, and I don't know this, I just heard someone say that in China, there used to be a legacy where they would set up a 10-generation plan. And then regardless of when you came into the family, if you came into the family 50 years later, you would pick up the plan and you would pick up the baton and continue to work the plan that was set in motion prior. Isn't that amazing? 100-year, 10-generation legacy. Well, you know, that's even a Bible concept, where there's a scripture in the Word that says that God will bless you for 10 generations. So I'm claiming that, so that whatever I set up for my family, that is going to continue for 10 generations if Jesus tarries. And I am, when I say Jesus tarries, if his coming back is that far, far away. And I'm believing that for you. So let's plan for it. Now, understanding your family destiny, I believe, is key to understanding your own. Well, here's a couple of Bible scriptures to support this. Isaiah 61:8-9. I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting. Now, the word everlasting means never ending. An everlasting covenant with them, an everlasting promise, commitment with them, that their seed, which means their children, their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people, and all shall see them and acknowledge them that they are the seed which the Lord has blessed. Wouldn't you want that for your family, to have them do so well in every regard that people will look at them and say, these people are blessed, and that it would give honor to God, because he's the one who blessed them. So, you know, blessed financially, blessed mentally, strong families, successful, you know, whatever you consider blessed, that people will look at your family, the seed, and say, wow, these are blessed people. I want that. Don't you want that? Psalms 112:1-3 says, praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that fears, which means reverence the Lord, that delights greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty upon the earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. Riches and wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endures forever. This is the kind of legacy that I believe you can position your family to walk in. And that should be a goal and that should be a goal for everybody, I believe. So discovering your family legacy. Now I wanted to give you a Bible example, and then I'll share with you some everyday examples. So when you look at the Jewish family, the nation of Israel, their initial goal from a Christian perspective was to usher in the Messiah. Their whole goal was to be the vessel that the Messiah would come through, and then because of that would just change the world. Now, the Levites were a family, and if you look them up, you'll see things like they were a priestly tribe. They were appointed to look over the tabernacle. That was their assignment. So even though there was an overarching goal to usher in the Messiah, to be the vessel through which Christ, the Son of God, entered into the earth, the Levites' special assignment was to overlook and take care of the tabernacle. Can you see that? And even though their role was different, it still helped the overall goal. David, we talked about him in a previous session. One of his goals or assignments or his destiny was to birth the King of Kings. He, out of his bloodline, he birthed a lineage of kings. So the kings came from his bloodline, and the King of Kings did also. So David had a very special assignment, a very special thing to do, but it still contributed to the overall goal of ushering in the Messiah. Can you kind of see that? John the Baptist, we know that his role was to prepare the way. So he ministered and he set the scene, the atmosphere, so that Jesus, when he came on the scene, when he was 30 years old, that John had prepared the way for him. Now, his assignment was different than the Levites and different than David's, but yet his assignment still contributed and played a role in the overall role of bringing the Messiah into, ushering the Messiah into the earth. Can you kind of see what I'm saying? And so your family legacy, when you look at it, you'll find that there's an overarching assignment, an overarching legacy that you're to walk in, and then every person in the family will have a slightly different role, a slightly different destiny, but it will still contribute to the overall goal. I hope that makes sense. Share with me in your comments if you get it. Let me know that it's clear. And if you have a question about it, then put the question there in the comment section below, and I will definitely answer it. Okay. So, discovering your family destiny, your family legacy, your personal, what I'm wanting you to do here is to first discover your personal family vision. Now, there is a covenant promises in the Word that is available to everybody. And so you need to know what those promises are so you can grab hold of it and walk in it. But there are special covenant promises that are made specifically to your family, that when you understand it, it gives you a greater idea of what your role is in fulfilling God's plan on the earth. If you've had one praying aunt, one praying mother, one praying grandmother, somebody, then they have asked God for some things for your family, and God has honored that. And so it takes a little bit of work to kind of decide or hear or discern what were the promises that you made. I've been blessed to be able to hear some of my mother's prayers for her family, and I know that God has honored her prayers for us. And so part of discovering your legacy, your family destiny, is hearing what those prayers were and those promises were that were made for your family. And so number 3 here, then after you have a general sense of the overarching family legacy destiny, then you want to go to God and ask him what your role is in accomplishing this major purpose and plan. Say yes if this makes sense to you. Put in your comments below. I need to know that you're with me, that you're following me. So put a yes here if you get it. So let me share with you how I discovered my family destiny as a clue of how I'm going to help you to discover yours. What I'm going to have you do is to develop. If you already have a family tree, then that's going to be good because you're going to be able to look at that. But if you haven't, I'm going to include a chart here right below, and I'm going to ask you to just go back and look at your family tree for about 3 to 4 generations. And that's kind of what I did. And I also had the advantage, both of my parents are no longer with me. They have gone on to glory. They passed, and they're now right in the heavenly places, hanging out with Jesus and the angels. And I know that. But prior to that, I had the wonderful opportunity of being able to interview them. I actually interviewed them and asked them about their life and what they've gone through and what they overcame. And I got so much information from them. And then I sat down with God after that to get clarity of what I got from my father's side of the family and what I got from my mother's side of the family. There are various strengths that I got from both sides. So from my father's side of the family, I got the importance of family. My father valued family, and he drilled that in us. My family, I can say we are close. And even though we live in various parts of the country, we are still close, and we'll get together on a regular basis. And if anybody has an issue or problem or challenge, we are there to support each other. We understand the importance of family. We understand from my father, we got strong survival skills. My father had to overcome all kind of challenges in his life. But he was determined, regardless of how difficult it was, to push through and make it. And part of it was because of his value of family. And so because he never wanted to let family down, even when work was difficult, even when he had to deal with bosses that were just not fair. You know what I'm saying? That regardless of what he had to face, he stuck through it. He did it, even if he didn't want to, because of the importance of family. I got that from my father. And the third bullet here is that he was so willing to sacrifice himself for the needs of others. I saw him make sacrifices for his siblings. I saw him make sacrifices for people in the neighborhood, and I definitely saw him making sacrifices for us. There were some of his family members that lived better, meaning maybe might have had better homes or bigger homes, or were able to do other, they had a lot of material things. What my father did was he sacrificed some of that so that he could provide for us. He could supply and support us going to college. He could, you know what I'm saying? And so he was willing to have less stuff so that he can do more for us, if that makes sense at all. So he would sacrifice some of his dreams to make sure that our dreams came to pass. He was disciplined as it relates to work and good work ethic, and he valued education. He was not someone who finished high school, and so he drilled that in us, to finish high school, which we all did, and he supported us going to school, which many of us did. So that's what we got from my father's side of the family. Now, what we got from my mother's side of the family is this awareness when I went back through her family tree. Now, I had slavery. Slavery was involved in both sides of my family. From my mother's side of the family, her great-great-great-grandfather was how many generations back, was born in slavery. Not born in slavery, but, was in slavery. And we heard the stories of their being freed. But what happened is that when slaves were free, the owner of the land could no longer handle it. And so a lot of the land, or some of the land, was given to my grandfather, a great-great-grandfather. And he was able to, in one generation, move from being a slave to being a person who ran the farm, for lack of a better word. He had people now working for him. There was land on there were people that would rent from him. So there were homes that were built on the land. And so he became a little entrepreneur. And what was interesting is that I know that what God was trying to put in place for him was a place where, this is the term God said, where the land would take care of you. Because my great-great-grandfather was also a minister. And so the goal was to have the land take care of you so that you are free. He didn't have to get another job. He didn't have to, he could earn money, earn survival from the land. Because you could sell the fruit, he can sell the meat, he can sell whatever they grew on the farm. They were able to sell that, and as a result of that, make a living. And that was the goal. That was God's initial goal. So from one generation to the next, we had that ability to move from slavery to business owner, from the lowest person in an organization, and rise to the top. We had that ability to do that, and I've experienced that in my life. In my family side of the family, there's strong church leadership. So not only are there a lot of ministers in my family, but there are a lot of people who had leadership roles, church board members, teachers, just all kind of strong leadership roles, and also a prophetic anointing, this ability to really hear the voice of God and be able to pick up things. My mom, I could be in another state, and she would pick up if something was wrong with me. She just kind of, there was a knowing that she would have. And that kind of knowing was something that was common, you know, in my family. Also in my mom's family, there was the importance of education and a career as opposed to just having a job. My mother at one point had her own business as a beautician. She went to school to become a nurse. That was something that she wanted to do. There was always, she had family, and so made the decision to raise kids as opposed to continue to pursue that career. But I'm the oldest, and I would hear her heart of always wanting to not just work, but to pursue a career of some type. There was importance of family, again, from my mama's side of the family. And here, my mom used to say, girl, you know you got all kind of people in your family. And she wasn't lying. But she said, regardless of what they do, they are family. And you love them, and you respect them, and you accept them. And she says, if you can learn to deal with the variety of people in your family, cousins and uncles and all of that, if you can deal with them, you'll be able to deal with anybody. And that has proven true for me in my life. And then my mother, I really loved her definition of freedom. She had a definition of freedom. I have a book that I wrote that's called Taking Back Stolen Goods. And what I'm talking to you now is part of this is in my book. But one of her, and I won't read the whole thing, but one of the things that she said is that she said, Donna, true freedom starts inward. You have to be free internally before you can be free externally. She says, and that is the goal of our family, to live in God's freedom, where eventually the freedom that you have on the inside results in freedom on the outside. And she really instilled the fact of never give up. I don't care how tough. And my family has that never give up kind of mindset. We really do. We know how to tough stuff out. We're not wimps. My family, we're not wimps. We have withstood all kind of storms. And that's because our family gave us that kind of backbone. And she says, if you learn to fight to survive and be determined to find a way, that God will always open doors for you somehow. So I love that. You know, there's a whole page here of her description of true freedom. And that is what she gave my family. That's what she's given us. So here is what I did then, is I took and I looked at what I pulled from both sides of the family, and I wrote a paragraph. This was my process of coming up with my family destiny, family legacy statement. And this is what I wrote. Cowan is my maiden name. The Cowan family was created to be a living example to the world of God's true freedom, regardless of outward forces. We are to be a living display of God's ability to take unlikely people and elevate them to positions of spiritual authority and success. Our lives are to serve as a beacon of light to the world, leading people to Jesus because of his love, kindness, and overcoming power. We are to live financially free, not living under any control or power of anyone outside of God, not held or burdened by debts, discomfort, confinements, limitations, restrictions, or unusual rules or traditions. Isn't that good? So, you know, I know that I tend to be long-winded. So I took this, and then in my attempt to come up with something a little bit more succinct, this is what I came up with. My family's destiny is to be financially free entrepreneurs where our land, our businesses, and our investments take care of us, allowing us to freely dedicate our lives to serving God. That is my family destiny. Isn't that amazing? And so I want you to be able to find yours. So here's how you're going to do it. You are going to look at the lives of your family members and find the main story. Now, this is going to take prayer to discover it, but it's going to be worth it. Now, there are going to be some special family situations. For example, you may be someone who was adopted and you don't know your family. Well, you might be, or you may be someone who, regardless of how hard you look, there was so much dysfunction in your family that you can't see any good. Now that's, we can really help you to try to find, because I believe every family has something of value, but sometimes it's really hard to find it. And if that's the case, then you may be Abraham in your family, meaning Abraham was raised with a family of pagans, and he had to leave his family to start a whole new generation. And you may be that person for your family, where you have the assignment of just seeking God and then setting a whole new tradition, a whole new legacy in motion, and you could be the start of that. That would be amazing. So I wanted to share this with you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a break here, and what I want to do in the next segment is to share with you the homework assignment for you to discover your family legacy, your family destiny.